Hello class, this is the second video and the third assignment. Today in this video we will be talking about digging deeper supporting sentences. Okay, so we have already chosen our topic and we have already given ourselves like 6 different topic sentence options. And now we're going to move on to the first supporting sentence, and with that we will be choosing a fact or a piece of information that goes with our topic sentence, and then we will be adding some things to it to make sure that it is an interesting supporting sentence that gives the reader the same vision in their head and the same amount of understanding that you, the writer, want the reader to have. Okay, so because that is our main goal when we're writing, is we have a vision or we have an understanding in our head, and we really want to express that understanding and that vision to our reader. So in order to do that, we really have to make sure that there is enough detail and enough explanation and vivid words in our writing that our reader is getting the same vision as what we, the writer, are wanting them to have and what we are having in our in our mind at the time that we're writing. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do to our supporting sentence is we want to add adjectives. Okay, and you may remember from your grammar classes that adjectives describe nouns, and nouns are person, places, or things, or ideas. And when we add these adjectives to nouns, it's going to give that noun a better description. We're basically looking for a better description, a more vivid picture in the reader's mind. So the first one here, we added 2 adjectives, fluffy and soft, to the noun cat. Fluffy, soft, cat. Now if I didn't put the words fluffy and soft with cat, you may think of a little short-haired gray cat. But when we add fluffy, soft cat, then you can see in your head a big, fluffy, poofy, soft cat that almost looks like a fur ball when it curls up in a ball to sleep. So that helps the reader to see the same thing you're wanting to write. The next one here, red sports car. The noun is car, and we're adding red and sports to it. That helps us to visualize the right kind of car. We're not visualizing a broken down, brown, rusted out car. We're visualizing a red sports car. So us as the reader have the same picture as the writer. And this last one, snowy branches. Branches is the noun, and snowy is describing the branches. Now we know that the branches are not in the summer, or they're probably not in Florida. We know that these branches have snow on them, so it gives us an idea of the time of year, gives us an idea of where this might be. It is definitely in a colder climate where trees have snow on them. So it gives us a whole lot of information there by just adding one adjective, snowy. Okay? So after adjectives, the next thing we need to move on to improve our supporting sentences is we need to move on to adverbs. Now, if you haven't discussed adverbs in your grammar class, adverbs are words that describe your verb. So you're adding a word to your verb to be more descriptive. So adverbs, sometimes the word itself helps us know what it is. So adverbs, we add to our verbs and helps describe our verb. So in this one, stood intensely. Stood is our verb, and intensely is our adverb. Now, something you may notice about adjectives is quite often, not all the time, but quite often, adjectives come before the noun. When we're dealing with adverbs, they're often added after the verb, and they very often have an ly at the end. Okay? So our verb is stood, and our adverb is intensely. and this is one that has that ly, which is very common. Okay, so if we use the first example under adjectives, fluffy, soft cat, and we add it to the first example under adverbs, and we're just going to add the article the for to make the sentence sound more complete. The fluffy, soft cat stood intensely. Now we can really see a picture of what is happening in this writing. We can see a fluffy, soft cat. It's not curled up in a ball over in the corner. It's standing somewhere, and it's not just standing, it's intense. So maybe it's going to pounce on something or something like that. So that is definitely going to draw your reader in, because they're going to want to know why that cat is standing intensely. If you took out all the adjectives and the adverb, your sentence would just be the cat stood. And that's not real interesting, and we don't know what kind of cat, and we don't know how it's standing, so it doesn't give us that vision of something's going to happen next, like when we add the word intensely to it. Okay? Let's look at another example. Raced wildly. The adverb is wildly, and the verb is raced. If we put this together again with our second example underneath adjectives, the red sports car raced wildly. Okay, so now we can see that it's a sports car, and it's racing, and maybe it's not just on a racetrack going normal, somewhat, normal racing. It's racing wildly. So that gives us, we're kind of wondering, where is it racing wildly? Is it on a racetrack? Is it going down the road? Is it going to cause an accident? What's going to happen with this red sports car that is racing wildly? Okay, and if we just said the car raced, we wouldn't know, what kind of car it is, where is it, and how is it racing. So when we see raced wildly in our head, we can kind of picture that red sports car is going all over the road, and it's not being, like most cars should be, and under control. Okay, so let's look at the last example under adverbs here. Crack loudly. So our verb is crack, and our adverb is loudly. And as I mentioned earlier, you can see that all three of our adverbs have ly with it. Intensely, wildly, loudly. Okay, there are some adverbs that don't have ly, but whenever in doubt, you're wanting to add an adverb, or you're looking at a sentence and you're trying to figure out if there's an adverb, if there's a word after the verb that has an ly, most likely it is going to be your adverb. Okay, so crack loudly. So if we add this again to our third example under adjectives, the snowy branches crack loudly. All right, now we can see that there's not just a little dusting of snow. There's probably a lot of snow on this branch to make it crack. Okay, I wonder what's going to happen with that branch that's cracking. It kind of adds some anticipation to see what's coming next. Okay, so that's what you want to do. You really want your reader to be anticipating and wanting to know what comes next. The next thing that we can add are transition words. Okay, transition words are generally added to the beginning, and it just helps the flow of reading. Sometimes you'll add it to this first supporting sentence, but a lot of times you'll wait until your second or third supporting sentence to add your transition words. Let's look at some of the options for transition words. We have then, next. Obviously, that's why I say you're not going to use next in a first supporting sentence. So some of these just wouldn't work for a first supporting sentence after your topic sentence. Okay, but additionally, also, after, furthermore, these are all good transition words. And as I said, a lot of times you'll wait and use a transition word in your second and third and fourth in your sentences after your first supporting sentence. So you'll have your topic sentence, your first supporting sentence, and after that is usually when you start to use transition words. And these are some of those transition words that make the writing and make it flow easier when you're reading it, okay? Those are just some. You might actually know some others that you can add to your homework paper. Okay, the other kind of transition words are order words, and this is often used if you're giving a description of a step-by-step thing. Okay, first, second, third, and the word last is also considered an order word. Also, finally could also be considered an order word. So those are some transition words. As I said, you probably can think of a few more, and I'll have you maybe come up with one or two of the ones that you can think of that help the flow of writing on your homework paper. Let's look at this fourth shovel, okay, and discuss prep phrases. Prep phrases are prepositional phrases. Prep is kind of just a short way of saying prepositional. And prepositional phrases always start out with a preposition. Now, you may or may not have worked with prepositions in your grammar yet, but what I want you to remember that prepositions and prepositional phrases are, you can always know that it is a preposition or a prepositional phrase if you can answer anywhere a squirrel can go. Okay? If you can answer anywhere a squirrel can go, then you know it's like a preposition or a prepositional phrase. Okay? For instance, the word in. If you think to yourself, in, anywhere a squirrel can go. Can a squirrel go in? Yes, a squirrel can go in a tree. Then in is a preposition. If you think of the word over, and then you think anywhere a squirrel can go. Can a squirrel go over? Over the log. Yes, a squirrel can go over something. So over is a preposition, and over the log is a prepositional phrase, okay? So whenever you're trying to think about a preposition to add and a prepositional phrase to add, then you can just think of the cute little saying, anywhere a squirrel can go, and that will help you know if it is a preposition and a prepositional phrase. Okay, so let's look at this. Prepositional phrases in a supporting sentence give more information. Okay, it's going to give a little bit more information so that you can complete the picture in the reader's mind. Okay, on the bench. So, can a squirrel go on the bench? Yes. So we know that that's a prepositional phrase. If we add this prepositional phrase to our first adjective example and our first adverb example, then we'll have a nice full sentence here. The fluffy soft cat stood intensely on the bench. Okay, now you can see maybe this cat is in a park or something and it's standing, it's fluffy, and maybe it's fluffy because it's mad and its hair's all sticking up. It's hard to tell. So this is very interesting, and your reader is going to want to know what is going to happen with this fluffy soft cat that's standing intensely on the bench. Okay? So that is a prep phrase. That's second example, over the hill. Okay? The red sports car raced wildly over the hill. Okay? Now we know over the hill is a preposition because that is a place a squirrel can go, over the hill. Okay? And in our case, it's not a squirrel going over the hill, it's a red sports car. So the red sports car raced wildly over the hill. This piece of information gives us a better image. Now we know that the red sports car is not on a racetrack. We know that it's out on the roads and it's going over a hill. And, we can anticipate that something might happen since it's racing wildly going over a hill. And that's going to make your reader want to read further. Okay, the last example here, outside my window. All right, can a squirrel go outside my window? Yes, a squirrel can be running around outside your window. Yes, so we know that outside my window is a prepositional phrase. Now, if we add it to our adjective example and our adverb example, we get a complete picture. The snowy branches crack loudly outside my window. All right, so we know now that this is not out in the middle of the forest. We know it's by your house, so we're getting a better picture of, this is, maybe somebody's bedroom window, maybe they're waking up, but we're wanting to know more about this snowy branch that's cracking loudly outside the writer's window. Okay, so basically prep phrases are just adding a little bit more information to make the picture clear in the reader's head. Now, there's one more thing there at the bottom of the page. You can probably see it, and it says more interesting verb. Okay? Oftentimes we need to look at our verb and decide, can I use a different verb that would be more descriptive and more interesting for this sentence? A good example is using the word go or went. Okay? The boy went down the street. All right, so we do see a boy that's going down a street. It doesn't give us a real good image of how the boy is going down the street. Is he running down the street? Hurries down the street? How is this boy going, or how did he go down the street? Okay, so the verbs go or went, okay, depending upon whether you're talking in the past or in the present, if the go or went doesn't give us a real great image, a real great picture, but run or hurries does. Let's look at some other. Saunters, which is sort of just a slow walk. If you're not sure what saunter means, saunters is a very descriptive verb that just sort of describes how he walks down the street. He's not in any hurry. He's just sauntering slowly down the street. Maybe he's looking in the windows of the stores. Okay, so saunters is a just real relaxed stroll kind of walk. Stroll would even be a better descriptive word. The other word there is galloped. Maybe it's a little boy and he galloped down the road. Maybe he's walking with his mom and dad or with someone and he gallops down the road. As many little kids don't always just walk. They often have kick to their step. Okay, another is skipped. Again, maybe there's a little boy and his mom and dad are walking and he's skipping along, skip-diddy-doo-dah, as he goes down the street. Okay, so that word skipped, as opposed to using went, gives us a much more vivid picture of what's happening. Okay, you can almost play that movie in your head. That also crawled. Maybe it's a wee little boy and he crawled down the street. Who knows what this story is about? Maybe the little boy got sat out of his stroller and started crawling down the street, and mommy was chasing after him as he crawled down the street. Okay, so that is much more information than if you just say the little boy went down the street. So it's really important when you are finished with your sentence to go back and relook at that verb to make sure it is a descriptive verb, that it's giving as much information to the reader as you want it to give. Okay? So now you have a paper that looks kind of like this. This is a homework paper. It is assignment 3. And if you look there, I would like you to give your own examples of adjectives plus nouns, just like I did on my paper. Fluffy, soft cat. I want you to give me some examples of, descriptive adjectives going with nouns. Also, I want you to give me verbs plus adverbs. Okay, some nice descriptive verbs with the describing adverb that goes with them. So again, try to use very vivid verbs with this. No whence, no go. Use a verb that really gives us a good picture in our head of what's happening, and then add an adverb to it to really complete that picture. All right, see if you can think of any other transition words other than the ones that I have on my paper. And order words, you should have a pretty easy time coming up with order words, as those are pretty much just number words. So add another order word there. So that little section is not too hard. And then the last one, I'd like you to give me 3 examples of prep phrase that you could use. Okay, now on my paper, the adjectives and adverbs and prep phrases, they all went together to make a complete sentence. You do not need to do that. I just did that to show you how it would expand and be more descriptive. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. So your adjectives with your noun do not have to go with your adverbs and your verbs, with your verb and adverb, okay? But I do want you to fill out this paper. Remember that if you're having trouble thinking of prep phrases, just think of anywhere a squirrel can go, and then that little phrase is a prepositional phrase. Finally, I want you to think of 2 or 3 more interesting verbs that you could use besides sit or sat. Okay, think about how something would sit or set or sat down, and give me a more interesting verb. Okay, so think about if you have a sentence, the boy sat on the couch, there's got to be a better way to say how he did that on the couch, you know. So there are definitely some words that you can come up with that would give a better image in the reader's head other than using sit or sat. So let's try to think of 2 or 3 interesting words for that. When you're finished with assignment 3, just take a picture or scan it and go ahead and upload it for me to check. If you have any questions, let me know.